Book 14. Hospitality in the Forest. He went up from the cove through wooded ground, taking a stony trail into the high hills, where the swineherd lived, according to Athena. Of all Odysseus' field hands in the old days, this forester cared most for the estate, and now Odysseus found him in a remote clearing, sitting inside the gate of a stockade he built to keep the swine while his great lord was gone. Working alone, far from Penelope and old Laertes, he had put up a fieldstone hut and timbered it with wild pear wood. Dark hearts of oak he split and trimmed for a high palisade around it, and built 12 sties adjoining in this yard to hold the livestock. 50 sows with farrows were penned in each, bedded upon the earth, while the boars lay outside, fewer by far, as those well fatted were for the suitor's table. Fine pork, sent by the swineherd every day. 360 now lay there at night, guarded by dogs, 4 dogs like wolves, one each for the 4 lads the swineherd reared and kept as under-herdsmen. When Odysseus came, the good servant sat shaping to his feet oxhide for sandals, cutting the well-cured leather. 3 of his young men were afield, pasturing herds in other woods. One he had sent with a fat boar for tribute into town, the boy to serve while the suitors got their fill. The watchdogs, when they caught sight of Odysseus, faced him, a snarling troop, and pelted out viciously after him. Like a tricky beggar, he sat down plump and dropped his stick. No use. They would have rolled him in the dust and torn him there by his own steading if the swineherd had not sprung up and flung his leather down, making a beeline for the open. Shouting, throwing stone after stone, he made them scatter, then turned to his lord and said, "You might have got a ripping, man. 2 shakes more and a pretty mess for me you could have called it, if you had the breath. As though I had not trouble enough already given me by the gods, my master gone, true king that he was. I hang on here, still mourning for him, raising pigs of his to feed foreigners, and who knows where the man is, in some far country among strangers. Aye, if he is living still, if he still sees the light of day. Come to the cabin. You are a wanderer too. You must eat something, drink some wine, and tell me where you are from and the hard times you've seen." The forester now led him to his hut and made a couch for him, with tips of fur piled for a mattress under a wild goat skin, shaggy and thick, his own bed covering. Odysseus, in pleasure at this courtesy, gently said, "May Zeus and all the gods give you your heart's desire for taking me in so kindly, friend." Eumaeus, "O my swineherd," answered him, "Tush, friend, rudeness to a stranger is not decency. Poor though he may be, poorer than you. All wanderers and beggars come from Zeus. What we can give is slight but well meant, all we dare. You know that is the way of slaves who live in dread of masters, new ones like our own. I told you the gods long ago hindered our lord's return. He had a fondness for me, would have pensioned me with acres of my own, a house, a wife that other men admired and courted. All gifts good-hearted kings bestow for service, for a life work the bounty of God has prospered. For it does prosper here, this work I do. Had he grown old at his own house, my master would have rewarded me, but the man's gone. God curse the race of Helen and cut it down, that wrung the strength out of the knees of many. And he went too. For the honor of Agamemnon, he took ship overseas for the wild horse country of Troy to fight the Trojans." This being told, he tucked his long shirt up inside his belt and strode into the pens for 2 young porkers. He slaughtered them and singed them at the fire, flayed and quartered them, and skewered the meat to broil it all, then gave it to Odysseus hot on the spits. He shook out barley meal, took a wine bowl of ivy wood and filled it, and sat down facing him with a gesture, saying, "There's your dinner, friend, the pork of slaves. Our fat shoats are all eaten by the suitors, cold-hearted men, who never spare a thought for how they stand in the sight of Zeus. The gods living in bliss are fond of no wrongdoing, but honor discipline and right behavior. Even the outcasts of the earth, who bring piracy from the sea and bear off plunder given by Zeus in shiploads, even those men deep in their hearts tremble for heaven's eye. But the suitors now have heard some word, some oracle of my lord's death, being so unconcerned to pay court properly or to go about their business. All they want is to prey on his estate, proud dogs. They stop at nothing. Not a day goes by, and not a night comes under Zeus, but they make butchery of our beeves and swine. Not 1 or 2 beasts at a time, either. As for swilling down wine, they drink us dry. Only a great domain like his could stand it, greater than any on the dusky mainland or here in Ithaca. Not 20 heroes in the whole world were as rich as he. I know, I can count it all up. 12 herds in Elis, as many flocks, as many herds of swine, and 12 wide-ranging herds of goats as well, attended by his own men or by others, out at the end of the island. 11 herds are scattered now, with good men looking after them. And every herdsman every day picks out a prize ram to hand over to those fellows. I too, as overseer, keeper of swine, must go through all my boars and send the best. While he ran on, Odysseus with zeal applied himself to the meat and wine, but inwardly his thoughts shaped woe and ruin for the suitors. When he had eaten all that he desired, and the cup he drank from had been filled again with wine, a welcome sight, he spoke, and the words came light upon the air. "Who is this lord who once acquired you, so rich, so powerful as you describe him? You think he died for Agamemnon's honor? Tell me his name. I may have met someone of that description in my time. Who knows? Perhaps only the immortal gods could say if I should claim to have seen him. I have roamed about the world so long." The swineherd answered, as one who held a place of trust. "Well, man, his lady and his son will put no stock in any news of him brought by a rover. Wandering men tell lies for a night's lodging, for fresh clothing. Truth doesn't interest them. Every time some traveler comes ashore, he has to tell my mistress his pretty tale, and she receives him kindly, questions him, remembering her prince, while the tears run down her cheeks. And that is as it should be when a woman's husband has been lost abroad. I suppose you too can work your story up at a moment's notice, given a shirt or cloak. No, long ago wild dogs and carrion birds most like laid bare his ribs on land where life had left him. Or it may be quick fishes picked him clean in the deep sea, and his bones lie mounded over in sand upon some shore. One way or another, far from home he died, a bitter loss and pain for everyone, certainly for me. Never again shall I have for my lot a master mild as he was anywhere, not even with my parents at home where I was born and bred. I miss them less than I do him, though a longing comes to set my eyes on them in the old country. No, it is a lost man I ache to think of, Odysseus, and I speak the name respectfully even if he is not here. He loved me, cared for me. I call him dear my lord, far though he be." Now royal Odysseus, who had borne the long war, spoke again. "Friend, as you are so dead sure he will not come, and so mistrustful too, let me not merely talk as others talk, but swear to it. Your lord is now at hand, and I expect a gift for this good news when he enters his own home. Till then I would not take a rag, no matter what my need. I hate as I hate hell's own gate that weakness that makes a poor man into a flatterer. Zeus be my witness, and the table garnished for true friends, and Odysseus' own hearth. By heaven, all I say will come to pass. He will return, and he will be avenged on any who dishonor his wife and son." Eumaeus, "O my swineherd," answered him, "I take you at your word, then. You shall have no good news gift from me. Nor will Odysseus enter his hall. But peace, drink up your wine. Let us talk now of other things. No more imaginings. Makes me heavy-hearted when someone brings my master back to mind, my own true master. No, by heaven, let us have no oaths. But if Odysseus can come again, God send he may. My wish is that of Penelope and old Laertes and Prince Telemachus. Ah, he's another to be distressed about, Odysseus' child, Telemachus. By the gods' grace he grew like a tough sapling, and I thought he'd be no less a man than his great father, strong and admirably made. But then someone, god or man, upset him, made him rash, so that he sailed away to sandy Pylos to hear news of his father. Now the suitors lie in ambush on his homeward track, ready to cut away the last shoot of Arcaesius' line, the royal stock of Ithaca. No good dwelling on it. Either he'll be caught, or else Cronion's hand will take him through. Tell me now of your own trials and troubles, and tell me truly first, for I should know. Who are you? Where do you hail from? Where's your home and family? What kind of ship was yours, and what course brought you here? Who are your sailors? I don't suppose you walked here on the sea." To this the master of improvisation answered, "I'll tell you all that, clearly as I may, if we could sit here long enough with meat and good sweet wine, warm here, in peace and quiet within doors, while the work of the world goes on. I might take all this year to tell my story, and never end the tale of misadventures that wore my heart out by the gods' will. My native land is the wide seaboard of Crete, where I grew up. I had a wealthy father, and many other sons were born to him of his true lady. My mother was a slave, his concubine, but Castor Hylacides, my father, treated me as a true-born son. High honor came to him in that part of Crete, for wealth and ease, and sons born for renown, before the death-bearing Ceres drew him down to the underworld. His avid sons thereafter, dividing up the property by lot, gave me a wretched portion, a poor house. But my ability won me a wife of rich family. Fool I was never called, nor turned tail in a fight. My strength's all gone, but from the husk you may divine the ear that stood tall in the old days. Misery owns me now, but then great Ares and Athena gave me valor and man-breaking power. Whenever I made choice of men-at-arms to set a trap with me for my enemies, never as I am a man did I fear death ahead, but went on foremost in the charge, putting a spear through many men whose legs were not as fast as mine. That was my element, war and battle. Farming I never cared for, nor life at home, nor fathering fair children. I revelled in long ships with oars. I loved polished lances, arrows in the skirmish, the shapes of doom that others shake to see. Carnage suited me. Heaven put those things in me somehow, each to his own pleasure. Before we young Achaeans shipped for Troy, I led men on 9 cruises and corsairs to raid strange coasts, and had great luck, taking rich spoils on the spot, and even more in the division. So my house grew prosperous, my standing, therefore, high among the Cretans. Then came the day when Zeus, who views the wide world, drew men's eyes upon that way, a curse that wrung the manhood from the knees of many. Everyone pressed me, pressed King Idomeneus to take command of ships for Ilion. No way out. The country rang with talk of it. So we Achaeans had 9 years of war. In the 10th year we sacked the inner city, Priam's town, and sailed for home. But heaven dispersed the Achaeans. Evil days for me were stored up in the hidden mind of Zeus. 1 month, no more, I stayed at home in joy with children, wife, and treasure. Lust for action drove me to go to sea again, in command of ships and gallant seamen bound for Egypt. 9 ships I fitted out. My men signed on and came to feast with me, as good shipmates for 6 full days. Many a beast I slaughtered in the gods' honor, for my friends to eat. Embarking on the 7th, we hauled sail and filled away from Crete on a fresh north wind effortlessly, as boats would glide downstream. All rigging whole and all hands well, we rested, letting the wind and steersmen work the ships for 5 days. On the 5th, we made the delta. I brought my squadron in to the river bank with 1 turn of the sweeps. There, heaven knows, I told the men to wait and guard the ships while I sent out patrols to rising ground. But reckless greed carried them all away to plunder the rich bottomlands. They bore off wives and children, killed what men they found. When this news reached the city, all who heard it came at dawn. On foot they came, and horsemen, filling the river plain with dazzle of bronze. And Zeus, lord of lightning, threw my men into blind panic. No one dared stand against that host closing around us. Their scything weapons left our dead in piles, but some they took alive, into forced labor. And I, how I wish that I had died in Egypt on that field. So many blows awaited me. While Zeus himself inspired me, I wrenched my dogskin helmet off my head, dropped my spear, dodged out of my long shield, ran for the king's chariot, and swung on to embrace and kiss his knees. He pulled me up, took pity on me, placed me on the footboards, and drove home with me crouching there in tears. Aye, for the troops in battle fury still made one pass at me after another, pricking me with spears, hoping to kill me. But he saved me, for fear of the great wrath of Zeus that comes when men who ask asylum are given death. 7 years then my sojourn lasted there, and I amassed a fortune, going about among the open-handed Egyptians. But when the 8th came round, a certain Phoenician adventurer came too, a plausible rat who had already done plenty of devilry in the world. This fellow took me in completely with his schemes, and led me with him to Phoenicia, where he had land and houses. 1 full year I stayed there with him, to the month and day, and when fair weather came around again, he took me in a deep-sea ship for Libya, pretending I could help in the cargo trade. He meant, in fact, to trade me off and get a high price for me. I could guess the game, but had to follow him aboard. One day on course due west, off central Crete, the ship caught a fresh norther, and we ran southward before the wind while Zeus piled ruin ahead. When Crete was out of sight astern, no land anywhere to be seen but sky and ocean, Cronion put a dark cloud in the zenith over the ship, and gloom spread on the sea. With crack on crack of thunder, he let fly a bolt against the ship, a direct hit, so that she bucked in sacred fumes of sulfur, and all the men were flung into the water. They came up round the wreck, bobbing a while like petrels on the waves. No homecoming for these, from whom the god had turned his face. Stunned in the smother as I was, yet Zeus put into my hands the great mast of the ship, a way to keep from drowning. So I twined my arms and legs around it in the gale and stayed afloat 9 days. On the 10th night, a big surf cast me up in Thesprotia. Phidon, the king there, gave me refuge nobly, with no talk of reward. His son discovered me exhausted and half dead with cold, and gave me a hand to bear me up till he reached home, where he could clothe me in a shirt and cloak. In that king's house I heard news of Odysseus, who lately was a guest there, passing by on his way home, the king said, and he showed me the treasure that Odysseus had brought, bronze, gold, and iron wrought with heavy labor. In that great room I saw enough to last Odysseus' heirs for 10 long generations. The man himself had gone up to Dodona to ask the spelling leaves of the old oak the will of God, how to return, that is, to the rich realm of Ithaca, after so long an absence, openly or on the quiet. In tipping wine out, Phidon swore to me the ship was launched, the seamen standing by to take Odysseus to his land at last. But he had passage first for me. The Sprotians were sailing, as luck had it, for Dulichion, the grain-growing island. There, he said, they were to bring me to the king, Acastus. Instead, that company saw fit to plot foul play against me. In my wretched life, there was to be more suffering. At sea, then, when land lay far astern, they sprang their trap. They had made a slave of me that day, stripping cloak and tunic off me, throwing around me the dirty rags you see before you now. At evening, off the fields of Ithaca, they bound me, lashed me down under the decking with stout ship's rope, while they all went ashore in haste to make their supper on the beach. The gods helped me to pry the lashing loose until it fell away. I wound my rags in a bundle round my head and eased myself down the smooth lading plank into the water, up to the chin, then swam an easy breaststroke out and around, putting that crew behind, and went ashore at underbrush, a thicket where I lay still, making myself small. They raised a bitter yelling, and passed by several times. When further groping seemed useless to them, back to the ship they went and out to sea again. The gods were with me, keeping me hid. And with me when they brought me here to the door of one who knows the world. My destiny is yet to live a while. The swineherd bowed and said, "Oh, well, poor drifter, you've made me sad for you, going back over it, all your hard life and wandering. That tale about Odysseus, though, you might have spared me. You will not make me believe that. Why must you lie, being the man you are, and all for nothing? I could see so well what happened to my master sailing home. Surely the gods turned on him to refuse him death in the field, or in his friends' arms after he wound up the great war at Troy. They would have made a tomb for him, the Achaeans, and paid all honor to his son thereafter. No, storm winds made off with him. No glory came to him. I moved here to the mountain with my swine. Never now do I go down to town unless I am sent for by Penelope, when news of some sort comes. But those who sit around her go on asking the old questions, a few who miss their master still, and those who eat his house up and go free. For my part, I have had no heart for inquiry since 1 year an Aetolian made a fool of me. Exiled from land to land after some killing, he turned up at my door. I took him in. My master he had seen in Crete, he said, lodged with Idomeneus, while the long ships, leaky from gales, were laid up for repairs. But they were all to sail, he said, that summer, or the first days of fall, hulls laden deep with treasure, manned by crews of heroes. This time you are the derelict the powers bring. Well, give up trying to win me with false news or flattery. If I receive and shelter you, it is not for your tales, but for your trouble, and with an eye to Zeus who guards a guest." Then said that sly and guileful man, Odysseus, "A black suspicious heart beats in you surely. The man you are, not even an oath could change you. Come then, we'll make a compact. Let the gods witness it from Olympus, where they dwell. Upon your lord's homecoming, if he comes here to this very hut, and soon, then give me a new outfit, shirt and cloak, and ship me to Dulichion. I thought it a pleasant island. But if Odysseus fails to appear as I predict, then swish, let the slaves pitch me down from some high rock, so the next poor man who comes will watch his tongue." The forester gave a snort and answered, "Friend, if I agree to that, a great name I should acquire in the world for goodness. At one stroke and forever, your kind host who gave you shelter and the hand of friendship, only to take your life next day? How confidently after that should I address my prayers to Zeus, the son of Cronos? It is time now for supper. My young herdsmen should be arriving soon to set about it. We'll make a quiet feast here at our hearth." At this point in their talk, the swine had come up to the clearing, and the drovers followed to pen them for the night, the porkers squealing to high heaven, milling around the yard. The swineherd then gave orders to his men, "Bring in our best pig for a stranger's dinner. A feast will do our hearts good, too. We know grief and pain, hard scrabbling with our swine, while the outsiders live on our labor." Bronze axe in hand, he turned to split up kindling, while they drove in a tall boar, prime and fat, planting him square before the fire. The gods as ever had their due in the swineherd's thought, for he it was who tossed the forehead bristles as a first offering on the flames, calling upon the immortal gods to let Odysseus reach his home once more. Then he stood up and brained the boar with split oak from the woodpile. Life ebbed from the beast. They slaughtered him, singed the carcass, and cut out the joints. Eumaeus, taking flesh from every quarter, put lean strips on the fat of sacrifice, floured each one with barley meal, and cast it into the blaze. The rest they sliced and skewered, roasted with care, then took it off the fire and heaped it up on platters. Now their chief, who knew best the amenities, rose to serve, dividing all that meat in 7 portions, one to be set aside with proper prayers for the wood nymphs and Hermes, Maia's son, the others for the company. Odysseus he honored with long slices from the chine, warming the master's heart. Odysseus looked at him and said, "May you be dear to Zeus as you are dear to me for this, Eumaeus, favoring with choice cuts a man like me." And, "O my swineherd," you replied, Eumaeus, "bless you, stranger, fall to and enjoy it for what it is. Zeus grants us this or that, or else refrains from granting as he wills. All things are in his power." He cut and burned a morsel for the gods who are young forever, tipped out some wine, then put it in the hands of Odysseus, the old soldier, raider of cities, who sat at ease now with his meat before him. As for the loaves, Mesaulius dealt them out, a yard boy, bought by the swineherd on his own, unaided by his mistress or Laertes, from Taphians while Odysseus was away. Now all hands reached for that array of supper, until when hunger and thirst were turned away, Mesaulius removed the bread, and heavy with food and drink they settled back to rest. Now night had come on, rough, with no moon, but a night-long downpour setting in, the rain-wind blowing hard from the west. Odysseus began to talk, to test the swineherd, trying to put it in his head to take his cloak off and lend it, or else urge the others to. He knew the man's compassion. "Listen," he said, "Eumaeus and you others, here's a wishful tale that I shall tell. The wine's behind it, vaporing wine, that makes a serious man break down and sing, kick up his heels and clown, or tell some story that were best untold. But now I'm launched, I can't stop now. Would God I felt the hot blood in me that I had at Troy, laying an ambush near the walls one time. Odysseus and Menelaus were commanders, and I ranked third. I went at their request. We worked in toward the bluffs and battlements, encircling the town, got into canebrakes, thick and high, a marsh where we took cover, hunched under arms. The north wind dropped, and night came black and wintry. A fine sleet descending whitened the cane like hoarfrost, and clear ice grew dense upon our shields. The other men, all wrapped in blanket cloaks as well as tunics, rested well, and shields up to their shoulders. But I had left my cloak with friends in camp, foolhardy as I was. No chance of freezing hard, I thought, so I wore kilts and a shield only. But in the small hours of the third watch, when stars that rise at evening go down to their setting, I nudged Odysseus, who lay close beside me. He was alert then, listening, and I said, 'Son of Laertes and the gods of old, Odysseus, master mariner and soldier, I cannot hold on long among the living. The cold is making a corpse of me. Some god inveigled me to come without a cloak. No help for it now, too late.' Next thing I knew, he had a scheme already in his mind, and what a man he was for schemes and battles. Speaking under his breath to me, he murmured, 'Quiet, none of the rest should hear you.' Then, propping his head on his forearm, he said, 'Listen, lads, I had an ominous dream, the point being how far forward from our ships and lines we've come. Someone should volunteer to tell the corps commander, Agamemnon. He may reinforce us from the base.' At this, Thoas jumped up, the young son of Andrymon, put down his crimson cloak and headed off, running shoreward. Wrapped in that man's cloak, how gratefully I lay in the bitter dark, until the dawn came stitched in gold. I wish I had that sap and fiber in me now. Then, O my swineherd, you replied, Eumaeus, 'That was a fine story and well told, not a word out of place, not a pointless word. No, you'll not sleep cold for lack of cover, or any other comfort one should give to a needy guest. However, in the morning you must go flapping in the same old clothes. Shirts and cloaks are few here. Every man has one change only. When our prince arrives, the son of Odysseus, he will make you gifts, cloak, tunic, everything, and grant you passage wherever you care to go.' On this he rose and placed the bed of balsam near the fire, strewing sheepskins on top and skins of goats. Odysseus lay down. His host threw over him a heavy blanket cloak, his own reserve against the winter wind when it came wild. So there Odysseus dropped off to sleep, while herdsmen slept nearby. But not the swineherd. Not in the hut could he lie down in peace, but now equipped himself for the night outside. And this rejoiced Odysseus' heart to see him care for the herd so, while his lord was gone. He hung a sharp sword from his shoulder, gathered a great cloak round him, close, to break the wind, and pulled a shaggy goatskin on his head. Then, to keep at a distance dogs or men, he took a sharpened lance and went to rest under a hollow rock where swine were sleeping out of the wind and rain.